everybody. So hopefully you guys can see this. This is another part of my patio mold here. So I'm working with some concrete here. This is just your standard Sacrete 4,000 psi 80-pound bags of concrete that you can get. I got the Sacrete at Lowe's, but you can get Quikrete or any other brand really from any home center. Just going to show you quickly how this works and what it's like working with it. And then you'll see you should have seen in the other video essentially what all the stones look like, but I can show you some of those too. This is essentially creating your own pavers. But so I've got these coated gloves on here, and the reason for that is it's honestly easier to work most of this in with your hands before you start to go ahead and finish it with whatever different types of finishing equipment you have. So like I mentioned, I've got just your basic concrete or mason hand tool set from Harbor Freight. When I try not to buy anything from Harbor Freight because most of it is crap, but the mixer I've got over there that I showed in the other video, that thing has been great. The instructions on it were terrible, but otherwise for this project, anytime you're mixing more than a few bags, at this point I believe a mixer is 100% worth it and almost necessary. But anyway, so what I'm doing here, this thing is this mold, and I've got two of them. You can see the completed one right here, or not completed, but this one has still some wet concrete in it. But this is just it's 20 by 20 inches obviously, and about 1.5 inches or so thick, maybe a little bit more than that. Anyway, I bought it off of Amazon. You can get all kinds of different molds, whatever shape you like. They had like a brick pattern. This is kind of like your random rectangular and square stones, and the reason I got this one was because my project here was a 12 by 24 rectangle, and so this one basically fit the easiest in there without me having to necessarily dig up other areas or just putting it in some awkward spots. I do like the random kind of octagon or whatever shape it is kind of stone thing, but this one, just for the sake of this project, was going to be the easiest to work with, and that's been true so far. So anyway, back to this. What I've done here so far is I filled this thing up, and I've actually got a little bit too much, and so again, here's where it's easy to scoop out what you don't need, and I can throw this back in my wheelbarrow. And then you come through here and you're just flattening it to just be slightly above the different sections here on the mold. And so you can do this until you're happy with it. I found that it is a little easier to go just slightly under the top of the mold and kind of work it in there. If you end up with too much, when you go to pull your mold up, the edges come out not so great. So if you go just a little bit under, it's easier to pull your mold up, and you just get cleaner edges. You don't have to go back and worry about cleaning it up afterwards. So here we are. You can see here. So if you've never worked with concrete before, this might look pretty wet, but really it's not. What happens is once you start working it, once it's down, pressed down to the ground, and you start working it, that's when all the moisture comes to the top, and that's what you want. Stones in here. So your standard concrete like this, it's going to have stones in it. That's obviously just part of it. I do my best to, when I see them, to work them down in so that they're not exposed. They won't be exposed on the finished stone, and knock on wood, so far I haven't had any like that. So, alright, so this is basically good enough in terms of covered. So now I go through with this basic trowel here. Again, this is part of that set that I got from Harbor Freight. And all I'm doing here is going through, and with the smooth bottom edge of this tool, I'm just going in and smoothing it out so you can see how that concrete ends up being nice and flat on here. We'll go through, we'll do a few, we'll do this one so you can see what it looks like. And again, most of this is, you just are more or less working it to the edges. You start to fill in the edges from the outside. It kind of sort of levels everything out. You know, if you're looking to get a professional finish, unless you work with concrete regularly or for a living, you're probably not going to get it. But what you will get is good or well enough. And obviously everybody's got different interpretations of what that is, but for the most part, I've done, I don't know, however many of these now, and you learn after the first couple, you know, but you end up putting some stuff on here in terms of patio furniture or whatever else, and it, you know, nobody's going to sit there and look at every individual stone and go, huh, this one doesn't look as good as the other one over there. But what they will do is, you know, for the most part, be surprised that, one, you could do this all by yourself, because this is a relatively easy project to do. It's just, it can be time consuming. I've been doing this for a few days now, not for 8 hours a day by any means. I think the one day I only worked on it for about 2 hours, but you know, I've got a full-time job, and so this is just my hobby. I did this because I wanted to, and the concrete slab that I got quoted for this area was over $5 grand, and I didn't want to spend that kind of money. I ended up spending $220 or so on the mixer and the hand tools from Harbor Freight, and another $300 or so in concrete. About 330 bucks, I think, is what it was. And so for a hell of a lot less than $5 grand, I'm gonna have the exact same thing or close to it that I wanted from the get-go. So again, you see here, and I apologize, it might not be the greatest angle plus my shadow here, but let's see if I can turn and come this way. You'll see that it looks super wet, and again, reason for that is once you start working it, it brings the moisture to the top, which is what you want. So here I am, after a few minutes, basically done with this one, and then I'll start working on the one over there. What I'll do here real quick is just turn you guys around so you can see what this looks like. But so, apologize here, I'm trying to do this so that you can see it. But basically here, like I said, this is what it looks like. Again, it looks super wet. That one over there is the one that I'll work on next. But you can see all of these here. These are already done. These are ones that I worked on, you know, a few days ago or last week or whatever, at whatever point it was. And so these are starting to dry and cure, which is cool. The joints in here, if you can see them, they go all the way down to the ground, so, or down to the sand that I laid. And so what I'll do is I'll go back when this is all said and done. I'll put an edging on here and then put polymeric sand in between there, and essentially have my own little favorite patio here. So this is where I'm at. I'll give you guys a couple of more updates here shortly, but stay tuned.